In our nation, child abuse is a real problem, especially in Florida. As seen in this graph, Escambia County has one of the highest rates. More importantly, the abuse cases are mostly sexual abuse as shown in this chart. In 2018, the Children's Advocacy Centers in Florida served over 34,000 children who were victims of child abuse or neglect. 60% of the victims were female and 40% were male. The Gulf Coast Kids House has made it their mission to help these victims and their families. Chain Reaction has had the privilege of collaborating with the Gulf Coast Kids House. At Chain Reaction, we are all about developing great leaders. As our founder, Kristen Fairchild, always says, leaders are made, not born. One of the ways we learn how to become a great leader is from examples right here within our community. Gulf Coast Kids House is a great example. Our teens contribute to the Gulf Coast Kids House by making pots through Get Grounded. Here are some local news articles of child abuse cases that were handled by the Gulf Coast Kids House. And here are articles about just a few amazing things Gulf Coast Kids House has done for the community. We had the opportunity to sit down with Stacy Kostavecki, the director of the Gulf Coast Kids House. Tell me a little bit about the Gulf Coast Kids House and the mission of it, what it stands for.
Yes. We actually just changed our official mission statement this year, but Gulf Coast Kids House is a child advocacy center, and we serve Escambia County. Our mission is to end child abuse and heal families through collaborative intervention, family support, and prevention education. So the way we do that is when there's an egregious case of child abuse reported to the Kids House, we have all of the professionals and resources that are needed to investigate that case there at the house. That way we're able to bring the child there, we do the medical exam, we record an interview with them so that they don't have to repeat their story over and over again. We have 3 full-time prosecutors in the building that prosecute the cases, a host of mental health therapists, as well as family advocates who support families throughout the investigation and afterwards.
How have you grown as a leader through your work at the Gulf Coast Kids House?
I've grown a ton. I've been there 10 years. So every challenge brings a new skill set. Also, every person that you interact with, I think, brings a new level of professionalism and experience. So I'm fortunate that I work with a board of directors of at least 25 people. And when we have a situation at Kids House that I've never been through before, like getting a statewide grant or something like that, we've been able to rely on those resources and grow that way. We also, I would say probably the biggest way that I've grown at the Kids House is through communication and employee management.
What is your biggest strength in being a leader?
I think I would have to say my biggest strength is just being willing to listen and collaborate and being able to admit that I'm wrong. A lot of people can't admit that they're wrong until they're way too far down the wrong path.
As a leader, how do you hold yourself accountable and keep yourself in check on an everyday basis?
It's a really silly motivational poster, but it's work hard and stay humble. It's,
right.
I think, again, we are, the mission of Kids House is to work collaboratively. And so that is something we pride ourselves on. Remaining accountable is in our core values. So we have weekly staff meetings, we have weekly huddles, monthly staff meetings, monthly board meetings, and we all know that for the Kids House to be successful, we have to hold each other accountable.
What is your favorite success story from a kid that has gone through the Gulf Coast Kids House?
A lot of really great success stories. There are a couple where we had 2 young sisters who had been sexually abused, and when they would come into the lobby, you'd see them walking up the sidewalk, and you would just get this dread because they were not well behaved. They had a lot of behavior issues. It was always a tantrum. It was chasing them around the lobby, and they were going to therapy. So by the end of their therapy session, they were delightful to have in the building. So you could see just the change that happened with them because of the therapy intervention. Mm-hmm. We also have another, a little guy named Jerry. He was an abusive head trauma baby, so that means shaken baby. His dad shook him very violently, and he still suffers long-term consequences from that, both mentally and physically. He's had over 20 surgeries. He is the sweetest little boy. He was adopted by his grandparents who are in Texas. And Jerry has done a really, really great job because of the loving home of his grandparents. And my last one is we have a new advocate, and she is now an adult. She just turned 18, but she was sexually abused by her father since the age of about 5. And her mom supported her throughout her disclosure, throughout her therapy, the prosecution, everything. We were able to get a really good prosecution against him. They did therapy at the kid's house, and now both the mom and the daughter are passionate advocates for our mission.
If you are sitting in this room, you've already been recognized as leaders. I hope after watching this video, you've been able to acquire some advice from an expert here in our community. Here are some final thoughts from Stacy on leadership.
I think my biggest piece of advice is to be a good communicator, and to do that, you have to listen. That's something that we work with our staff on a lot, because what I see oftentimes is people will listen to someone, but while they're listening, they're thinking about how they're going to add to the story and what they're going to contribute. But you need to be an active listener, because if you aren't that way, you end up missing a lot of things.
Yeah.
The other thing is to know that one person doesn't have all the answers. I think what drew me to the kids' house was the collaborative approach and the communication that requires. And honestly, that's what's kept me here, is that the team at the building does such a great job of that.
As you attend CR, you will be empowered to become an even stronger leader through service and practicing the 24 elements, making an impact beyond yourself.